I was talking to a Welsh person, whose last name was Llewellyn, and I was like, "Well, hello there, Mr. Llewellyn," and he yells at me. He's like, "No, no, no, it's Llewellyn. When it's Welsh, the double L is pronounced with a C." And I said, "Okay, well, stop being such a lunt."
Welcome to Lazy Saturday, best joke ever. 10 out
That's
of
Jimmy
10.
Carr.
We'll tell again.
That's Jimmy Carr. We're here with me, Elias, Moose, and Caiyth. Caiyth, would you like to tell us about yourself a little bit?
Uh, I'm a YouTuber and I specialize in mostly horror. And I like playing all sorts of games. I live in Sweden. I used to live in England. And then when I was 25, I decided to move to a completely new country and start again.
I can
Nice.
kind of sympathize with that. I've had the desire to do that more times than I'd care to admit. But also, I have some Swedish
so-
ancestry. Whereabouts in Sweden? Well, you don't have to answer that. This is a public video. You
Near
totally don't have to answer that. Near
It's
Stockholm?
near
Okay.
Stockholm. Yeah.
So you got like, well, I don't even know what's in Sweden. I've never been. But anyway,
The only
We
parts
are-
I know is the hockey teams.
they have hockey teams in
And I
Sweden.
can speak it as well.
Oh,
Oh, you can speak
oh my god,
Swedish.
dude.
Mm.
What
Nice.
are
Okay.
some of your favorite phrases in Swedish?
Uh,
It could be the swearing ones. It's cool.
Yeah. When it comes to, so like I also speak French, and my favorite like French phrases are all like the really silly ones. Like "sacré bleu" is just holy blue, and
uh-huh.
if you think about what that means, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
No. I don't know if they have that. They do have this word lagom, which means just the right amount. So if someone asks you like, how much milk do you want? You say lagom. It means just the right amount, and there's no actual amount for it.
That
It's a really
sounds
annoying word as well. It is very
Wow.
annoying.
that sounds like something my grandfather would say, and so my grandmother is the one who's Swedish, and my grandfather is Swiss, and that's on my mom's side, and whenever I would ask him, "Do you want beer or wine?" He would say yes.
Ah.
Not beer
Oh, is
and
that-
wine. He wants one or the other, and
You
so
have to guess which
he
one.
treats it. Yeah, he treats it like a logic gate. And I keep thinking like instead of majoring in obscure French literature, you could have majored in computer science, and you would have been so much better off for it. But at the same time, he went to college not to get a job, but to educate himself, which that's the thing that I don't think is really a thing anymore in the same way that it used to be. Like now, when people go to college, at least in America, they do it because they want to get a job,
Yeah.
and then there's internships and there's apprenticeship programs and stuff, and it's just not exactly the same as it used to be.
There's actually speaking with my girlfriend because she lives in England, and she went to I think it was Princeton, an entire university just based on creating music and sound engineering. I'm like, there's a whole college for that over there. You know, in America, it's just like all in one and really expensive.
Yep, that's Full Sail University for you. That's where my friend Tony, who just got married the other week, went actually. Anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of England, what are some of your guys' favorite regional accents from England?
Oh.
There's a
Ma-
lot.
There is. My girlfriend was born and raised in Manchester, but she has a very posh accent and just what you think England would. And then when she's in Manchester, sometimes I'm like, okay, slow down. I don't understand what you're saying. I love your accent, but my favorite thing to do is to anyone who is English and I can't understand it is like, oh God, if only you spoke English, I could understand you.
Ooh.
That's a rough one. I have to say, there's a surprisingly large amount of different accents for a place that's so small.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
My accent is actually, well, it's probably mixed since I've been moving around the country and then I completely went to another country. But my original accent is actually Devonshire, which is southwest. But I know that when I moved to Yorkshire, I didn't understand what anyone was saying. Like they were talking and it wasn't yeah, I just didn't understand a word.
Is it Yorkshire that's
Really
got the
confused
phrase
me.
tin tin tin, which means it isn't in the tin?
I think so.
Maybe.
I
I've been
don't.
watching a lot of Jimmy Carr lately, and he makes fun of every accent in England. It's hilarious.
Oh god, I can't wait to hear the Mancunian one then.
My favorite is definitely the Scottish accent because, um, again with Jimmy Carr, and that's just because I'm on a kick on him right now. Um, he was talking about how he was getting a cab to a show, and he asked the cab driver, "Where's a rough place around here?" And the cab driver's like, "This is Glasgow. For you, everywhere." And he tells that story at the gig, and just didn't think of it as think of it as even a joke, but more like he just followed up with a comment. Glasgow seems like a very aggressive place, and someone in the front row yells, "No, it fucking isn't." Not a hint of irony. All right, so we're talking about horror games today. What are some things that you like and don't like in horror games? We were talking about it a little bit before we started the episode.
Oh,
I quite like the things that right. Someone just called me. I had to hang
It's
up on
okay.
him. Yeah, like
Was the call coming from inside the house?
no. It was inside the car in my mobile.
Okay. Oh, okay.
They're so rude in this game. I'll tell you that. I don't even know these
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
if my
Yeah.
phone went off this much in real life, I would be like constantly
I'll
paranoid.
throw it. Can you open the window? I'll just throw it out right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Moose.
yeah.
Moose, roll down the windows.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that in this game. It's an armored
Yeah, I
car.
know.
The windows don't move.
Okay. The phone probably wouldn't break either, so it's okay. It's a Nokia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can
there you
shoot
go.
that thing with a gun and Nokia would still work.
So the things in horror games, I don't know. I think sometimes if you want a good horror game, you have to, like the same with movies as well, that you have to, like, there's a way to really affect somebody. One thing that I noticed is that if there's an obvious jump scare coming up and then you deviate away from that and then you decide to like put the jump scare later on, that usually gets the person way more scared.
Absolutely. You kind of have to subvert their expectations a little bit.
Exactly. I think it's they expect it and then it doesn't happen, so they kind of go, "Oh, okay then," and then it happens.
Yeah, and even if they are expecting it and they continue to expect it after the moment when they think it's going to happen, like they've got that anticipation building and they don't know when it's going to happen. So when it finally does,
Exactly.
it freaks them out.
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
That whole concept just explains why I never played Five Nights at Freddy's.
I couldn't play that. I remember, and it's on my channel as well, that when I played that, apparently Foxy's not meant to come out like, I don't know, I think I made it to the second day or something, and she's not meant to come out until like the third or fourth, and she came out early for me, and it scared me so much I could never pick up that game again.
Oh no.
I was traumatized.
I believe that. If Foxy's got like a hit out for you or something, someone's been paying Foxy on the side just like, "Hey, there's a
I
girl
know
who's
you
gonna
don't
be playing
move to
this game."
day 3 or 4, but trust me, you want to.
Yeah,
Trust
I
me.
I made it all the way past night 6 and then I tried to beat 20 1, 2, 3, 20 mode.
Yeah.
And I just at that point it just gets like not fun for me.
Because it's not even scary at that point. It's more like when you play the 20 mode, or I forget how many 20s there are, it's just a pattern.
Yeah, and even if you do it completely right, it's not guaranteed that you're going to win.
Yeah.
No.
So it's
Very
just
random.
frustrating more than anything. So, what about you, Moose? Are there things that you like and don't like in horror games?
Let me. I'm trying to think right now because it depends on the horror game and what I'm in the mood for.
That's true. I had a comparison that I wanted to bring up. Do you want me to go now?
Because-
Or?
Well, I was thinking like, well, if I'm in the mood for being absolutely terrified, games like Outlast is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Good games and fighting back, maybe Resident Evil 7. Because there's so many good horror games. It just depends on my mood of how I want to get scared.
There are a lot of really good horror games. You're right.
Resident Evil 7 I couldn't do either. It just, I don't know, it was just too creepy for me.
I never played it, but I have been playing RE2 Remake. And
Oh, that game is fun.
That one's good.
I
Yeah.
I had to stop playing. I cannot play it any further than where I'm at right now because Mr. X.
He's not too
Oh,
bad.
I know
He's
he's
just
not too bad, but he's everywhere, and it
he's
makes
just like
me.
an angry. Yeah, he's like an angry teenager. He just stomps around a lot and makes a lot of noise.
I
yeah.
know, but even with that, like, there's always just that dread in the back of my mind of like, oh, he's coming. I can hear his footsteps. Is he gonna find me? If I stay quiet, is he still gonna find me? And he still finds me. And I'm like, what was I supposed to do? I need to run back to the safe house, wait for him to go away. Then I have to try and get back to where I was without, getting freaked out by the giant metal footsteps. And
You were
so
going to hate Nemesis.
I love, I absolutely love the idea. In practice, I hate it because I want to keep playing the game, but I'm terrified every single time I pick up the controller now.
It
Aw.
is. I mean, that's like the fine balance with horror games. It's just like I want to be scared, but not so scared that I get traumatized from this.
Yeah, and another
Exactly.
another good comparison that I think is you mentioned Outlast before,
Hmm.
and Outlast is a game that had a really nice mix of atmosphere, dread, and jump scares. Because I actually think that jump scares, pardon me, are very effective in horror games when they're used well. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
Yeah.
Outlast does them extremely well. And in fact, Whistleblower I thought was even better.
Oh
Um,
god, Whistleblower is the best part of the whole Outlast franchise.
you know what
That
the
is my
sequence was that
favorite
really
mode.
cemented it for me was when the doctor guy, or the husband or whatever his name is
Oh,
chasing after you and you're limping away from him
yeah.
Oh
because
yes.
like he's faster than you and he can catch you at any moment, and you have this dread and this like stress and adrenaline of like I have to run away from this guy who's literally about to catch me, and I didn't know where to go at one point, and that's the only time in the entire Outlast series that I literally screamed. Um, so
Yeah.
that I think is a horror sequence done really really well. But then Alien Isolation, I didn't really get into that one so much because
Oh, the
it,
Xenomorph. Oh, that one freaks me out.
it's the problem is like I think of myself as a pretty analytical person. So when I have an opponent, I want to kind of size them up, see if I can notice any patterns or anything. And the alien is intelligent in such a way that you can't really study and analyze it and figure out what to do when. And so what I was doing let's plays of it with like 10 to 15 minute episodes, and all 10 to 15 minutes of those episodes were sitting underneath the desk watching the alien.
I can relate to that. Except once he managed to pull me out of the air vent, and that really did scare me because I didn't think that was
Yeah.
possible. But he did it. He opened. He was like, "Hello,"
Yeah,
and
I see
yeah,
that I was so cautious that like I didn't get to see moments like that, and I wish I had because I feel like that would have made the game so much more enjoyable for me. But instead, it
Yeah.
was just like a stressful like, how slowly can I crawl from one point to the next without being noticed? And Amnesia was sort of similar in that regard. I really like the idea of sanity effects,
Yeah, that's focus
um,
well.
mm,
but with Amnesia, there weren't enough jump scare type things to really freak me out. The closest thing was the what was the water monster that
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah,
That was a
I
fun
liked
part.
that. I liked that a
I
lot.
think I think the thing with the games, with horror games as well, is it's more scarier if you don't have control of something. Like for example, like you said with the limping, if you know that
Yeah.
you don't have control to fight back. Same with like when you're hiding, you don't have a weapon. I think those type of games are a little bit more scarier because you know that you have a weakness and you have to overcome it in another way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not about beating as much as it is escaping, which like a lot of games when your fight or flight instinct kicks in, it's always fight. But
Exactly.
that's actually something that I think Daymare 1998 did really well is like there are enemies you have to run from and enemies that you have to fight. And like some of the boss fights can be incredibly stressful. Um
I think that's
so like
the
what's
best
that?
mix. Just like trying to find the perfect monsters to fight, and then ones where you're like, oh no, don't attack that, you'll just die.
Exactly. And even then like you do still end up fighting the monster in the end,
Yeah.
which like the final boss fight is very climactic and well done. There's a lot of really, really good examples of horror games, and I feel like the genre's kind of had a resurgence lately. I never played Outlast 2, but Outlast 1 and Whistleblower were just amazing.
I had I think I'll be okay now, but before when I played Outlast 2, there's a demon in the game, and it reminded me so much of my night terrors as a kid. I couldn't play it for a bit.
Oh.
It is like talking to my girlfriend, I was like, I think I found a good description. What do you mean? Showed her the demon part? That. You want to know what my nightmares were like? This.
This was Outlast 2?
Yeah.
You know, the only nightmares that I ever had as a kid consistently were about my dog dying because of me.
Oh.
Yeah, those
That's
ones
even
were hard.
worse.
Yeah.
Those are
Like,
worse.
I remember one distinctly. I had a sword that I bought at the Scottish Highland Games because I have Scottish ancestry, and I would go there, get meat pies and bridies, and one time I went and got a sword. And I was like, this is cool. And so I had a nightmare that my dog was turning into a zombie because I had seen I Am Legend recently with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And she was attacking me, and I took the sword and stabbed her like right through the heart. And then she came
Oh,
back to
no.
normal right before she died. And like it ruined my whole week.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
That can't be
Zombie
too
dreams are
nice.
not fun.
No. Well, Rachel has zombie dreams all the time, like literally all the time. And so sometimes they're really, really funny. I don't have any examples that I remember off the top of my head. But every time she tells me about a dream, it's just a countdown to like, when do the zombies come in?
Oh, wow. I was thinking the worst nightmares as a kid is anything spider related. That one just immediately like I'm staying up for the rest of the week.
Caiyth, are you afraid of spiders?
Yes, definitely. And it doesn't help that usually when I have dreams like that, I open my eyes up and then there's usually one on the ceiling or something. Or
Oh God.
yeah, that's happened a few times. I had one right next to my face.
Oh no.
My headboard. Yeah, above a headboard, and that thing was massive. It was a house spider, but it literally, with all the legs, it wouldn't fit under a glass. That was the biggest one I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to get like a big old Tupperware for that.
Yeah, and what I found out, just a hint, if you have something like a vaporizer or a diffuser for oil, spiders hate mint.
Okay.
So-
Really?
Yeah, they cannot. Like, if you wanted to keep spiders at your house, you spray your the whole property and any cracks with peppermint, and they will not go in.
I
It's just
personally,
something about their system, like, nope.
I personally don't mind spiders very much, but what I do mind, and like they freak me out every single time I see them, is either A, snakes, which is why I'd love to live in Ireland, or B, cockroaches.
Oh, I don't know if it's just being near cockroaches or just, especially in the city, they're just kind of there. It's just don't leave them alone. You can't do anything to kill them. Snakes, on the other hand, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, snakes are freaky and like they move weird, which is I think the thing that freaks me out the most is like cockroaches move weird. They're just I hate them. But if I were living in New York, I'd probably get used to them because they're literally everywhere. Here in Atlanta, last year was like a record year for cockroaches, and it freaked me out every single time. Yeah, I hated it.
We don't have them here.
Sweden?
Nope, we don't have them here.
All right, I'm
We
getting
do
a plane
have
ticket
ticks, though.
and a new apartment in Sweden.
Wow, I was thinking about maybe I should move to a new country. There's hockey in Sweden. I can pull this off.
But we do have ticks though, so it's a downside.
I grew up in New Hampshire, and they had ticks there. I never got
Yeah,
Lyme disease or anything like that.
Yeah, we got ticks here. My brothers had to get chickens to further their properties.
Ah, I need to get some chickens then.
Oh yeah, no, they just eat all the ticks. It is the best trick.
Oh, neighbors have chickens, so it's okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really, really effective strategy. That's like if you have a problem with houseflies, you could always just get a spider.
Ooh.
No, thanks.
That's the
I don't
thing,
know
though. Spiders are an effective means of pest control until they become the pests.
Yeah, there's actually spiders. I have different parts in my house, but it's like, you stay in that corner. You come anywhere near me, you'll know what happens.
Yeah, you guys have an understanding.
Yeah, And
Good that you
one
can
trick I
reason with them.
yeah, I just wish spiders were a lot, especially the big ones, were less ugly to look at. Because the worst experience I had was I was at a pet store and I love reptiles. Like I know Eli's freaked out by snakes, but I love them. So I was by that section and I just saw this, tank and there's just sand in it. I'm like, oh, what the hell's in there? So I put my face right up against it. Guess what came out the sand?
Was it a little sand boa? Because those guys are actually kind of cute.
No, I wish it was a sand boa. I saw it wriggling. Out comes a giant tarantula.
Okay.
Okay, I will say this: tarantulas do freak me out.
And they're
Those guys
also
are
poisonous,
giant
which
and
is
hairy.
another reason why. But what it's I don't know what it was like to see me as a big guy. I was more in shape in high school, so I'm wearing a hockey jersey, big dude. Next thing you know, I'm running, screaming like a girl out the door, yelling "nope" as after the scream.
Watch it actually just be a tiny little. What's that?
I poked a tarantula before at a zoo. You could stroke its leg, and I was like, "Nope, I'm going to do this." So that I can say that I've touched a tarantula before. They wouldn't let you pick it up or anything. I guess that's kind of
good.
smart. Yeah.
The
But they're
tarantula
not that
is for-
scary.
Oh man,
They're just
I
giant
wish
and hairy.
They're like a hamster.
I would rather have a hamster.
Me too.
True.
Oh, that was a steep
I'm allergic
landing.
to hamsters though, so
Oh,
Okay. Well, you could get a tarantula like as a pet and name it Spider-Man.
nope.
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 I'm good on that. Hang on, that's
Yeah.
a big old bag of no from me, Captain.
I've got 2 dogs like that. That's fine.
Oh, what kind of dogs do you have? I love
I have
dogs.
Samoyeds. 2 Samoyeds.
Aw. I love
What are the
dogs.
names?
Snow and Aragorn.
Oh, I love it.
That's
Is
awesome.
Snow like a reference to Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay,
No,
just
it was
Snow.
actually from Final Fantasy. Even though it's a girl,
okay.
we decided to call her Snow. And the funny thing is that the day we went to pick her up from the breeder, we had to travel for like 4 hours, I think it was, and it was the worst day ever. There was snow all over the place, and yeah, it was basically so bad that the wind was blowing it. And because in Sweden we have like, I can't remember how many types of snow, but you have all these different forms of snow. You have like hugging snow where you can make snowballs, and you have this very
the
dusty,
clumpy like wet snow.
Yeah.
and then
and then you have
dry
this dusty
powdery
one. Yeah, and it was that, and it was blowing all off the field, so you basically couldn't see the end of your bonnet. It was scary.
wow.
Oof. Yeah, I can understand that because we actually, where I live in New York, well, when it does snow, it hasn't snowed much this year, but there is all kinds of snow up here. So it's like that storm, I could definitely relate. That's the worst. Especially, I had to go home on the highway at one point, and there's just me and my brother in the Jeep, tense, like.
Probably going fairly slow, right?
Oh yeah, no, we were going. Everyone was going 30. Like anyone with a New York license plate just knows and was going 30.
You have squeaky snow.
Yeah.
What is squeaky snow like?
It's when you walk through it and it just like makes this really high pitch, like if you have styrofoam and then you rub it together.
Oh
it makes like
yeah.
Yep.
Honestly, my least favorite type of snow is definitely the kind that like. So the dry, dusty, powdery snow.
Yeah.
When that freezes over and has like ice on the top.
Yes.
It's like you're like, this is gonna be great. I can go sledding, and then you get in the sled and it's like, no, I can't. And then you try and make a snowball and it's like, and you try to make a snowman and it's like, who told you this was a good idea?
That's why with those type of storms, I'm always out shoveling during the storm because I can just tell by the weather, like, oh, you're gonna freeze on top. I gotta take care of this.
Yeah. Actually, there was surprisingly a little bit of snow in Atlanta a couple weeks back where I walked out early in the morning to go to the gym, and I saw a little like inch layer of snow on my car, and I was like, ah! And it was like the wet, clumpy snow, so I could have totally made snowballs and thrown them at someone if I knew anyone here in this development. Anyway, back when we were talking about horror games, we brought up Resident Evil 2 Remake, and that is a perfect segue that was about 10 minutes ago to our next topic, which is
Yeah.
remakes that we liked and remakes that we want to see. And also remakes we
Yes.
didn't like, if you have anything you want to talk about for those.
So can I combine a couple things of one I didn't like and I would like them to try again?
No.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
The Silent Hill remakes. We need a remake of
Yes.
that on the Fox engine. The original 4 games. Give me that on perfect HD and don't
Yes,
change
yes.
anything about them.
I've never actually played a Silent Hill game, but I have.
Dude,
I
they're
have
so
one.
good.
I have one.
Awesome?
I have one. What's that?
Okay.
Do you know what would be awesome though? I was thinking about this last night. If they made, now that we have like, virtual reality and stuff coming out, playing Silent Hill with virtual reality, I think would be.
Oh my god,
pretty
that
cool.
would give me a heart attack, but it'd be
Could
worth
you imagine that? Could you
My
imagine?
own
imagine,
experience-
imagine seeing Pyramid Head just right there.
See,
Oh
my
my
only
God.
experience with VR, this was early 2017, late 2016, and the girl I was
Mhm.
dating at the time and I went to the mall to do a Oculus Rift demo,
Oh my
and
God, the
they
car
had
bought
this
my life.
interactive demo where you could just look over the edge of a skyscraper, and I was doing that, and she said, "Yeah, I could see your whole body tense up while you were looking at the floor. It was really funny." And I was like,
That's good then.
"You saw what I
Yeah.
was looking at?" So imagining like seeing this buff dude with the big metal triangle on his head and the butcher's apron like running at me, I don't think I'd survive. I think I would actually literally have a heart attack.
No. No,
Yeah,
I think it'd be kind of cool with the mist, for example, and also could you imagine just walking and then suddenly, like, the world starts going into that horrible nightmare world all around you. I think
Oh,
that'd
and you
be
hear the
pretty
siren?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That honestly, a lot of my night terrors were inspired by Silent Hill.
So I'm aware of Silent Hill and I'm semi knowledgeable about it, but I've never played any of the games. I have Shattered Memories.
Uh-oh. Hey, stuck the landing. Let me flip this car.
Is Shattered Memories any good?
Shattered Memories isn't the best Silent Hill.
That's the Wii one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
that
that's
one.
one I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I played that one.
It's not the best one, but it's like a good starting point. But then when you get to the original 4 games, you're going to get scared a lot.
You know,
Oh yes.
speaking of the RE2 remake, that's actually a good example of a remake that added a ton of accessibility to a game that it was starting to not hold up very well, and
Yeah.
like when they remade it, it was extremely successful, and that's because you could go through that story and that game again in a way that was a little bit more accessible and modern. And I think that I personally have no problem with game companies kind of recreating games from the ground up like that to be modernized and more accessible, as long as they
Yeah, I
keep
can
the
understand
spirit
that.
of the original game there, because they definitely did with Resident Evil 2.
Oh, no, Resident Evil 2 is a perfect example of how to remake a horror game if you're going to change
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
But so far, all we've talked about are horror games. Like,
Oh, any
What about-
remake?
yeah, what about like?
Oh,
So look at like Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD, and that's basically just the same game.
I got surrounded there, but
It's not-
my favorite remake ever, and it's on when they remade the Spyro games. Oh my god, that was the best time ever because Spyro is what got me into gaming when I was just a little kid, and seeing the
Oh, I
games
remember
remade
that.
in perfect HD was like, this is my childhood. Except everyone gets to see what the games can look like now instead of just like 96 graphics.
Was the control scheme still the same as the PlayStation era?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even
I
for
can
a
imagine
detriment,
though
because
that that was still
people wanted
accessible.
the first game.
Whoa.
What just happened? What? Oh my
What
god!
is, guys?
Are we in Silent Hill right now?
Oh! Oh my god!
I feel bad
Okay.
for that guy. Oh, it's even caused something on the other side. That was an
Really?
accident. Yep. That poor guy. He's been.
Oh my god! And she's just
She's
running
having a
down the
bad-
highway.
Oh no, he's
Yeah, she's not
Austin
waiting-
Powers in there.
I would personally do the same if that happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I saw like a
I'm gonna help it.
4-dimensional truck like just having a seizure there.
Yeah.
I'll help him.
We're gonna help this. Oh wait.
There's no one in here. He's done a legger. No, there he is.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't even know.
Oh, wait.
Hang on. I'm in the car now. No,
It's okay.
Please don't.
I'm just giving you a little turn. Oh no!
Oh god!
What
Oh
is
god! Oh
happening?
god! Oh god!
Why are you coming at me?
I have an issue. Okay, guys, just let me get.
This is a thing that's happening right now.
I think there's a bit of a pile up.
Oh.
Okay. Oh my god. What is going
Oh
on?
dear lord! Oh god!
Please help.
SOS! SOS!
Of horror games, I think Grand Theft Auto is up there.
Yeah, just turn into one real quick.
Whoa!
Let me get you picked up. Let me get you picked up. Get in the car.
Have you seen how many times these guys have been run over?
Yeah.
That was not
me.
Me. Why
Okay,
have
we
you got
gotta
one
go.
star?
I up and at him. It might have been me because there was a guy trying to punch me for trying to like fix the truck, and I shot him with the up and atomizer, and he flew 50 feet into the air, landed, got back up, and started running from me. And I was like, "No, you're not gonna run. You're not gonna tell anyone about this."
No witnesses.
Oh,
Whoops.
okay. Well,
now
I made
we're
things-
gonna
It's
talk
okay.
about-
I got it. I'll take care of him.
No.
Don't worry about it.
I was
It's
going
fine.
to try to escape him. Oh
okay, I
dear
got
God!
this.
Are you shooting at him now?
No,
Who's
we're just shooting near him. I'm just
I'm
shooting
not
near
Oh my
him.
shooting.
God!
oh
You know
my
what?
goodness.
Yes,
Let's
shoot
just-
this. Sweet Jesus.
Oh sweet Jesus!
We need to find a church and repent for our sins. Or you do. I
I
was
do.
just trying to help the guy.
Father, forgive
Yeah,
me, for I
you're-
have sinned.
Wait, where's the cop? I think he's
down below.
underneath us.
What?
But I don't think he will be
Perfect.
for long.
Oh
two stars
shit!
now,
Oh
though.
shit! Oh shit! Oh no! But damn
That's
it!
okay. You got this.
So how long?
So,
So how long till we have a SWAT team after us?
we'll need a couple other
3
stars.
or 4 stars.
yeah, if you get
Okay.
3, I think they send a helicopter after you.
Yeah, 4 is the SWAT team, 5 is just the military starting to get involved.
Yeah, like bomber jets, and they start nuking the place, and like,
Yeah, we
I'm
can't kill this one
exaggerating.
guy. We'll drop the nuke. He's gonna stop.
yeah,
They
There's
drop
only
this
one
tiny
way to
little
take down a-
bomb.
yeah. So, back to remakes. Like
Oh man, I thought I lost the cops. Back to remakes.
the Zelda remakes that I was talking about, they're literally just ports and like upscales, and
I never
Like-
played those ones.
so I'm a huge Zelda fan. I even have a Zelda tattoo, and people like of the 2 tattoos I have, that's the one that people comment on the most. Because it's identifiable enough to be Zelda, but if you don't know Zelda, you won't know that it's from Zelda.
Oh, there's the mountains. Keep going.
I'm a little bit sick of seeing remakes that are just ports with upscales. Like
Yeah.
in the Wind Waker HD, which I loved, they did add a couple of like quality of life features, but it was still largely the same game. And like there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I'm a little tired of like not seeing a little extra pizzazz. Like when they remade Link's
Exactly.
Awakening for the Switch, they completely changed the graphical style but kept the control scheme and the flow and everything else from the original game perfect. They just added a bunch of quality of life features, and honestly, since the first game came out for like the Game Boy, like not even Game Boy Color, but the original Game Boy back in like early 90s, seeing them treat the game with that much love really, really struck a nice spot with me. And since beating it, I haven't touched it. It's a short 10-hour game that I paid $60 for, which I guess the joke's on
Yeah.
me. But at the same time, like I wouldn't have done it any differently. I probably would have charged like 30 or 40.
Yeah, that's why I like the Reignited trilogy for Spyro, because it was 3 games completely remade from the ground up, and it was 40.
That is a lot more palatable.
And,
Nintendo's really gotten into a habit of like remaking games.
And Nintendo?
Yeah, like so once the Wii U came out, they started doing remakes of like a bunch of GameCube games, and then Switch came out and they're remaking Wii U games and they're remaking other games. And then now with Super Mario Maker, it's like you make the game. We don't even have to do it.
Yeah, no, that's Oh, what was it? Oh, on a list of remakes that completely failed, in my opinion, Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, they messed up everything.
Yeah, I was watching the Jim Sterling videos on that remake, and like it got meta bombed so hard that it got like a point 0.3 in Metacritic.
Yeah.
And
And the part is like, why did Blizzard release it when it looks like it's not done? And we weren't expecting it to like the end of the year, and then they just dropped that. I'm like, but why though?
here's the thing about Blizzard. A lot of people forget that it's Activision Blizzard, and it's like I know Overwatch has built up a lot of goodwill, and World of Warcraft has built up a lot of goodwill, but they're not a company that can't do any wrong. And
Oh no, Activision. The joke with Blizzard fans is like, let me guess, Activision got involved. Yep.
but even so, like this, so there are two things in particular that I think were really over the line with Warcraft 3 Reforged. The first is putting out a product that's so vastly inferior to what it was advertised to be. Like,
Yes.
there are cutscenes that are advertised for the game, and
They have the same scenes, and there's no cutscene.
exactly, it's like,
It's
and like the
why?
graphics in the game are even worse, and the voice acting is worse, and like it's just it's like at this point it's false advertising, you know.
Yeah.
And then the other part is the licensing agreement and terms of use and whatever are so restrictive, and it's all because Dota came out because of a Warcraft 3 mod, and
Yep.
Valve picked up Dota 2, and Dota 2 was extremely successful, and guess who didn't see a penny of that money?
Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And Activision putting. This is why I stopped playing Call of Duty way back in the day. Their microtransactions were ridiculous back then. Now I see them charging like $1 in the 2019 Modern Warfare for a kill count.
Wait, they charge you for a kill count?
Yeah, the kills to death ratio that you can check during the match. They charge you
Now
for
that's
it now.
locked behind money?
Yep.
Oh,
It's
goodness.
behind like this Russian or winter package. I'm like, yeah, don't buy that.
So first things first, we can talk about how good Call of Duty was, because it really was good.
Oh, I was that kid in high school. Remember how like I don't know if people talk about it or if anyone knew a lot of people that played shooters. I did, and everyone talked about Halo. I was the one guy that kept sticking up for Call of Duty, saying like, I don't like Halo that much. I want to play COD. Like World at War, best one they ever made.
But actually, okay, I agree with you on that. I was so good at the Wii version that, you know how deathmatch, like not team deathmatch but regular, the
Yeah.
kill limit is like 30.
Yep.
I was 1 kill away from winning on just kill count alone. One
It
match.
is. Oh my god, dude. I know MP40 was like the cursed weapon everyone thought was overpowered. So the first thing I
Really?
do, even if, yeah, apparently. So the first thing I do, if I spawned in as the Americans, kill a German and start picking up their guns, and everyone gets so mad. I'm like, well, just don't die, and I won't have your weapon.
Yeah, I always played with the M1 Grand.
Oh, M1 Grand's fun, but I had the KAR 98 and the MP40. I was like, so I was the American stealing the Germans' weapons as I got them.
You know, I can understand that, but for me, like, so for me personally, like on the Wii version, because that's what I played,
Yeah.
the accuracy was the most important thing, because I was really good at aiming, and the M1 Grand had surprisingly good accuracy and a high rate of fire for what it was. So essentially, it was like the all-purpose weapon, and if I really just needed to go get some kills, I could just get the noob tube.
Yeah.
But I never really got into the MP40 or any of the other machine guns. Even the Tommy gun,
Yeah.
I didn't really like that
Well,
much.
I know we did technically get off topic talking about COD and different ones, but how not to remake games has so far been Activision Blizzard. The Modern Warfare reboot, whatever you want to call it, didn't like it. Warcraft 3, no.
Yeah. Although they did a great job with WoW Classic, didn't they?
A WoW Classic, yes. Well, but that's the problem with Activision Blizzard lately. They'll do one good move and two backwards.
I guess
You
that's
know?
actually true.
Because like even people are just like confused, like, oh, Overwatch 2's happening, but what is it? So I
Is it?
explained it this. Well, yeah, it is happening, but you don't have to buy the game. It's basically pay $30 for a story mode, but everyone who has the game just gets this free total update, and it just gets called Overwatch 2. So what I explain it to people as is, imagine Call of Duty, except you didn't have to buy the game every year. If you wanted to play the new stuff, you just bought the expansion.
That's a step forward.
Yeah, and people were complaining, saying, "Oh, Blizzard's doing this because of..." No, it's for once Blizzard is a good move, and people were just like,
Yeah, I think it's that point. Like, you're a big wrestling fan, Moose.
Yeah.
You know how WCW, like, was making all the
WWE
wrong
now.
business.
Yeah.
What's that?
WWE now is basically WCW 20 years ago.
Yeah, like, they were at a point where they were so successful that they couldn't do anything wrong, even though they were only doing the wrong moves. And then, no matter how much right they did, people were already so sick of them that, like, they just didn't care.
Well, in terms of creative, WCW, what's the best way to put it? They had the WWF beat. You know, if they were smart, with the way they wrote the contracts and they actually had people in charge, because I call it the inmates ran the asylum, the wrestlers were the bookers. And unchecked, they'll just give themselves the championship because I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Not to expose the business, but it's the internet. We all know there's scripted stuff, but
it's still real to me, damn it.
The NWA fan.
Yeah.
But so with creative, you can't have the wrestlers run it. And in WWE's problem, it's an audience of one, where you could have this amazing idea and Vince McMahon could just shoot it down and then give you this crap one and expect you to do it.
Yeah. That's why I think AEW is going so
well. Oh my god, that AEW exists because of WWE. Like, all the people that are in it and sick of it, that's it. So it's a good metaphor for Activision.
Anyway, Caiyth, you have been talking up a storm for the last 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on what were we talking about? Wrestling? No, remakes.
Remakes.
Yeah.
Remakes. I think that like as you said, that you have to sort of bring something new as well. So, like, it can be the updated graphics, but you need to bring something else to it as well, because no one really wants to just play a souped up version. I think, like, with Resident Evil 2, what made it scarier was that it was a lot harder than the original.
In some ways, yeah.
It was, like, I think, I don't know, I can't remember the original exactly, but I think it was much easier to kill the zombies. Like, they would go down in a couple shots, whereas I found myself constantly shooting them and then they still were popping back up again.
Yeah, I would say that the new version is definitely more of an action game as well as a horror game, which I think the game lends itself really well to. I don't think it would work the same way with something like Amnesia, for example, if they were to remake that.
No.
But with Resident Evil, it's perfect.
Yeah. I actually did a series of that one for this TV channel that I work for. I do gaming content for a TV channel that's, like, global.
That's really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I was actually found through my YouTube channel, so
that is so awesome.
Cool. So something that has come out that's positive with my channel is that I've been offered, to have this opportunity to make gaming content. So it's kind of good.
I would say that's very good.
Spyro as well. So I played Spyro as well for them. So it's
interesting. About Spyro as a remake?
Game. But as a remake, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, you could finally see what the characters should have looked like instead of the blobs that they used to be. The good old poly.
Was that PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, by the way?
PlayStation 1.
PlayStation 1.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It was a long time ago.
So, as much as, like, PS1 graphics were clunky and old, for the time period, it was great.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
when you're younger as well, you always think that it's really good as well.
Oh, of course. Like, I remember when the N64 came out, and my friend had Ocarina of Time, and he showed me the fight with Ganondorf, and I was like, this is the most epic cinematic thing I've ever seen in my life. And now looking back at it, it's like, look at this goofy little redhead guy.
The children of today will never understand.
Of course.
The difference.
They'll never understand why it's totally right to see Mario punching a Goomba in Mario 64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said,
oh my god. Go ahead.
can we talk a little bit about the progression of the Mario series from 2D to 3D?
Okay. Like, what games you came to mind?
Mario 64 was really, really different for Mario.
Oh yeah, like that game was completely just an experiment to see what worked.
Yeah, and I've talked about this at length a couple times in my life, but it's hard when you're making the transition from 2D to 3D, so they went with a completely different idea, which I respect, but it didn't feel quite like Mario. It was like Mario, you jump on things, you reach the flagpole at the end of the level. This was like kind of open world within the levels, where like you had different objectives you could go for, and the jumping and combat and navigation system was completely different because it had to be, because it was 3D.
Yeah.
But I think if they were to try and do like a proper transition from 2D to 3D of the original Mario sequel, or well, not sequel, the proper Mario like gameplay and feel, the closest thing that they'd have would be like either Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS or Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U, because those played like Mario. You know?
Yeah.
So you're saying like games like it's like a different form of Mario, like 64 led to games like Sunshine and Galaxy.
Yeah, and those are great games, and I'm not trying to like.
Oh no. I'm just saying like the differences between what normal Mario is and then just those games.
Yeah, like with Zelda, the transition from 2D to 3D, it still felt and kind of worked in the same way that Zelda does, even though there were some pretty significant differences.
Yeah.
With Mario, it was like a total conversion almost. You know?
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
And
I
so
never really played that. Like growing up, I never really played Mario and stuff like that.
Oh, it was my
but
first game.
I understand what you mean, because something that I used to play was Worms, and it had the same sort of thing. They tried to make it 3D, and it just didn't work. So I understand where you're coming from with the sense of that it just doesn't work when you're trying to get a 2D thing to 3D.
Yeah, they went back to 2D in Worms for the foreseeable future, didn't they?
I hope so.
I believe so.
I remember
because there was even an update for the game Golf with Friends supporting like a 2D Worms game coming out, where they have a Worms net now. So it's like, okay, so they're going back.
Interesting.
Which is good.
You know, I remember playing the Worms 3D demo for Mac back when I got my first Mac, my first laptop, and I had a lot of fun with it, but it was a lot different from traditional Worms, where it's. I remember playing that. I actually had Worms on the Game Boy Advance, which did not work very well, but still, it was more fun than the 3D version.
Speaking of franchises that should have probably stayed 2D or something's a little different, Castlevania.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, some games that were 3D, I did like, but like when they did the Lords of Darkness,
yeah.
It felt like they're trying to just combine all these game genres, and it didn't feel anything like Castlevania.
As one YouTuber that you and I both have watched, Lords of Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, Lords of Shadow of the Colossus, because they literally ripped a boss battle, and I was so mad because I love Shadows of the Colossus and Castlevania.
I never played it. I've always wanted to play Shadow of Colossus and never played it.
It is such a good game.
I believe it.
I don't know if you know how the game goes, but I'm not telling you a thing. That game is just an experience.
I watched the Game Grumps play it.
Oh, okay. But it is so good. So when they did like games like Lament of Innocence, Curse of Darkness, it wasn't the thing Castlevania fans were looking for, but I had fun. But then Lords of Shadow happened, and it just felt like we like God of War and Shadows of the Colossus. Castlevania people, we'll just add it to the game. No.
Yeah, so here's the thing about like traditional Castlevania. Symphony of the Night, I think, was the first big shift away from what Castlevania was.
But it worked.
It did, but it also didn't feel like Castlevania at the time, and then Castlevania branched off into that direction. So like Harmony of Dissonance and Dawn of Sorrow, Aria of Sorrow, all of those games were... Oops. There's a term Metroidvania, which I never thought was accurate, because even like in one of the two. So it's used to refer to games that have RPG elements, and Metroid doesn't have RPG elements.
Yeah, it's the only reason why it's called Metroidvania, I think, is because in Metroid, I never played Metroid, so I'm just trying to see from what like gameplay I did see. It's like the levels you have to go back and forth and find different objects to progress.
Yeah, it's an open world structure, but there's a lot of item gates, and
Yeah,
I personally I think that Metroid and Castlevania are on two different levels in terms of game design because
oh yeah,
I think RPG elements can be great when they're done right, but with that type of map design, I think that it's kind of unsatisfying if you can just level up and be good enough to progress wherever you want to go, or get an item that just like, well, not an item, but like a better version of an item that you already have by
yeah. Like,
grinding
even
enemies.
well, we were talking about remakes. I'd love to see. I would love to see keep it 2D like it was, but remake Symphony in the Night.
Yeah, actually, I think that'd be cool because I never really got to play. Well, I got to play it, but I never finished it because
It is such a
I
good game.
would rather play Super Metroid.
Wait, which game was that? Sorry.
Castlevania Symphony in the Night.
I never played the Castlevania ones.
So the big thing for me is like in the NES days, they had 3 Castlevania games. They had 1, 2 Simon's Quest, and 3, which I think was just called 3. Was it?
Yeah,
No,
I
it's
think it was
Dracula's
just 3.
Curse.
Yeah. My bad.
And so Castlevania 1 was more equivalent to what you'd see from Dark Souls today. You know, where it was like enemy placement mattered. You had to get, well, Dark Souls was open world, but you still kind of had to get from point A to point B,
Yeah.
and kill enemies because they were in your way. Grinding wasn't really that much of a thing in Dark Souls, and the bosses were hard and challenging, and like beating them usually unlocked like an area of the map or like the next kind of thing you're supposed to do, or it was one of like several that you had to do to get to the next area. And so generally it was like each enemy that you killed had a purpose for existing, and that was to make your life harder.
Yeah.
With Simon's Quest, it was more of the RPG style design where enemies are there to provide you with drops, and like you can go from point A to whatever point you want in any path that gets you there, and you don't really need to kill the enemies because they're not placed in ways that are challenging. They're placed in ways that are like they won't mess you up going from one town to the next in Simon's Quest, sorry. And like the bosses aren't as hard. You can level up and like get better equipment, and so essentially it just becomes a grind fest. And I think on a gameplay driven level, it's much more satisfying to beat intelligently placed enemies using your own skill as a player, and the limited set of tools that the game gives you at that point in time to overcome those obstacles. What are your thoughts, guys?
Speaking on the first one, I could definitely say that Dark Souls to me felt so Castlevania inspired, like the OG Castlevania. It really did, and I'm so happy to hear that you agreed. As like, oh my god,
honestly,
I never played Dark Souls yet because this is one of those games of that's really involved. I don't have time for that yet. But oh wait, we're going to the prison. No thanks.
That's where we're trying to escape.
Exactly.
I forgot we were fugitives. We almost walked back in like, hey, let me just park the car there and cell B, right? Okay, thanks. But
yeah, I really do think that Dark Souls. So it's a mix in my mind of like, because it does still have RPG elements, and I like trying to say that it's like Castlevania 1 and not entirely like Castlevania 2 is disingenuous, because there are RPG elements. You can level up, you can get better, you can get better items and better drops and stuff like that. But the game is designed in such a way that even the best equipment won't save you.
Yep. You have to use it right.
Exactly. You have to use your skill as a player to get from one point to the next. And I really appreciate that they did that. Like, there's this big... Yeah, there's this big like controversy about like, oh, if Dark Souls includes an easy mode, then that'll, ruin everything that Dark Souls stands for. And like, I don't really care how other people play the game that they play.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it the way that I play it and enjoy it, if in whatever way I enjoy it. Like,
That
have tried to
reminds me
play
of Devil May
Skyrim
Cry.
as a. What's that?
Devil May Cry used to have this mode where they would put you on normal, but if you kept dying, they would ask you if you wanted to play on easy, just to give people the option, like, hey, do you want the challenge or do you just want to go through the game? Because this is a setting you use. You just want to go through the story.
Yeah, and like having the option is fine. I guess people don't like being called out for dying so much, but
Oh yeah, no, it was I played Devil May Cry when I was like 7 or 8 the first time, like the original game, and
right.
I never got angry. I did during sports games, I would, because I'm competitive, but when normal adventure games, I wouldn't get angry. Then I saw, you've been dying a lot. Would you like to lower the difficulty? Me, raise it to its highest, bring it.
I never back down from a challenge. But no, because of like I've tried to do 3 different playthroughs of Skyrim on my channel, and just now I'm starting to really get into it by playing as something that kind of more fits the way that I play that game, which is I don't like using magic in that game because when I run out of magic, it stresses me the fuck out, and there's just nothing you can do except for wait for more magic to come to you. And I don't like playing as a sneaky archer with a dagger because like the stealth system in that game isn't very well developed, and it's not. It's basically everyone is doing it, and I can't get from one place to the next as fast because I have to sneak there to level up my sneak, and it's just frustrating. So I was like, you know what? I'll be an orc. I'll use a 2-handed weapon. I'll beat the shit out of anything that comes in my way, and I'm having more fun playing that game than I've ever had before because I'm playing it my way. Like I know that the best way to play it is as a sneaky archer, but I don't have fun doing that. So is it the best way? Not for me.
I think that's also why Overwatch is my favorite shooter, is because each hero just fits a style of play that people could go for.
Yeah, and
Like
even within that, like I'm sure there's different like sub styles of play, and that's
like,
another thing.
Let's say you like shooters like Call of Duty. You just wanted to run and gun. Let's Soldier 76.
Yeah,
And he can heal himself, and his ultimate is an auto aim. Where it's just like if you get an ultimate fast, you could just auto aim your enemies. It's like, hey, duck for cover now.
Yeah.
Or if
like
you just like blowing things up, you could be Junkrat launching grenades. I like games that give everyone choice.
Like I'm a big fan of Monster Hunter World, and in that game, you have so many different playstyles right at your fingertips, even within different weapon classes, or even within the same weapon class. Like you can be let's say you're using bow. You can go for max damage. You can go for being a support player. You can go for like elemental damage. There's just so many different ways to play each weapon. And yeah, there's a commonly accepted way. It's okay. We're still.
This is why my car is armored.
I guess now we're getting into the topic of like games that are generally just like they offer players multiple ways to have fun and don't force them into one specific path. And what better way to wrap up that discussion by bringing it back to Grand Theft Auto 5? This is a game where you can literally do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I've not actually played this one.
This game's
so
a lot of fun.
It looks good. I can't wait until I get my actual account back.
Honestly, my real favorite thing for this game is just going onto the highway and trying to jump into oncoming traffic.
Like this, you mean?
In first-person mode.
Oh god, okay. Like I think you called the mode Frogger, where it's just like now just run across the highway.
Yeah, it's just it's fun to me because like this is something that I would never be able to do in real life. So having my character do it for me is hilarious.
Oh yeah, like and also we're talking about styles of the styles of play. I'm a part of 2 groups, not only just with Bombadiers, where everything's organized, we got plans and fun games, and then there's my group, and we just do whatever we want in this game. Where we have a plan. Next thing you know, we're all in tanks blowing up the city. Why? I don't know. It's fun, isn't it?
You know, I want to pick your guys' brains a little bit about another thing I've been noticing in the gaming industry.
Okay.
How many open world games have you seen recently?
It feels like so many of them have come out.
It feels like everything's open world now, doesn't it?
I don't know. That's like there's got to be more games, but everyone's like, this is an open world experience. Next one, open world experience. Okay,
Yeah.
everything open world.
So
Are you actually good open world, or are you just gonna make me walk and look at your scenery?
exactly. And so like one thing that I really, really strongly noticed, I was playing a game called A Plague Tale. Have you guys ever played that one?
Yes.
It's so
I
good,
haven't
right?
Yet,
Yeah.
but it looks
It-
amazing.
It is freaking incredible. And A Plague Tale is I had a soft spot for it particularly because in an industry where now everything is kind of getting homogenized, it really stood out to me because every single level was like point A to point B.
Hmm.
It was not an open
I'm
world
getting
experience.
there.
It was linear. And as much as people
Oh,
talk
like
about
Hellblade.
linear, oh, has Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice?
Yeah,
I heard that game was so good, but I've never played it.
It is good, but
it is
yeah,
amazing.
it's very mentally overwhelming, I think.
Oh
It
yeah,
can
be.
I heard about the
It-
sanity effects
yeah.
that you can get. Like I heard that there was a part where you start getting like this rot all over your body that like if it spreads to your head, you die.
Yep.
And there's this one point where that's supposed to happen to you. And like when you die, instead of going back to the checkpoint, you start like right where you were because it was just a hallucination.
Yeah.
And so it was Rachel telling me about it. And she got so frustrated when that happened that she shut it off before she respawned without saving.
Oh. Oh.
And
Oh,
didn't realize that was
no.
supposed to happen until she started a new file and got back to that point.
Oof.
But anyway, Plague Tale and probably Hellblade 2 because I haven't played it yet. They have like a really tight design where like I know a lot of people complain about linearity in games, but is it really a bad thing if like a game is designed to take you from point A to point B and the challenge is getting there?
This turn.
No, I think that it's sometimes better because then it's easier to have a storyline where when it's sort of open world, then you sort of create the story, I think, because you get to have that choice over what to do next. Whereas when
Yeah.
it's linear, it's much easier to have a story and it can, affect you more emotionally. I know a
Yeah.
few times that when I've been playing a game and I've gotten to the end, and I know it's not just me that's done this, is like you get this weird feeling and then you start to tear up when the game's over because it was just that good of a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's all over now. I don't want it to be over. You become
Yeah.
attached to the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
On the topic of linearity, a lot of people so I'm a big fan of Metroid, the franchise, and Super Metroid is regarded as one of the best games in history, including by myself because I love that fucking game. Metroid 4 came out, Metroid Fusion, like 8 years after Super Metroid, and it was a lot more linear, and people didn't like that. But going back and replaying it, I think it's super underrated. It told a story, and like it was on the Game Boy Advance, so it had to be different than Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Like on a game design level, it really just fundamentally had to be different. But it also had a storyline that kind of carried you through the different segments of the game. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with incorporating some linearity into it. Although I understand why people were upset because this is a franchise that thrived on non-linearity and playing, getting from the beginning to the end in whatever way that you wanted to. And this is a game that just didn't let you do that.
Yeah.
But I also still think that shouldn't discount it from being looked at as a good game.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like I understand the frustrations where the first three are one style and then the next one isn't. Like God of War, like I don't know if it counts as a fourth game or another reboot or something, but the God of War for PlayStation 4 is totally different than the first three games.
Yeah, but it's
it
also
seemed like
a
it
really
got
good game.
Yeah. So I
My,
guess it just depends on the franchise and how well they pull it off.
Yeah, I guess like with God of War, it had been a long time since God of War 3, hadn't it?
Oh yeah, it was about I want to say almost a 10-year difference.
Yeah, I guess it's about the same for Metroid as well, but Metroid also released Metroid Prime around the same time as Metroid Fusion, and that one was such a big hit that it was looked at as the Citizen Kane of gaming, which some people might think that's an overrating. I Whatever value you want to ascribe to it, I'm not going to take that from you.
Yeah.
It was a good game though. Papa J I biceps.
What?
What?
You guys get that text message in the left?
I don't know. I've been trying to ignore the people spamming me.
Yeah, there's a lot of spam, and I swear I got like
They're
10
annoying.
calls from Lester when I opened up the game.
Oh yeah, no, they
Damn
finally
Leicester.
stopped.
Yeah,
Yeah, they finally realized that I'm not interested in talking to them.
yeah, it's like we're at a factory where it's been like 50 minutes since the last phone call.
Yeah, it's just gonna be 0 days since Lester called.
So, what are some things that you guys are passionate about in games and gaming? Like things you want to see more of, things you want to see less of, etc.
I don't know. My idea got inspired because of how the remake of Modern Warfare promised it and then they didn't deliver it. Was I wanted a story like if you're gonna people want to do war games. They said, "Oh, there's no morals and it's a great story," but then they just injected it with this Hollywood feel, like a good guy and a bad guy clearly, and I'm like, I want a game like Spec Ops: The Line, where the line is so you have to decide the morals of the game, and it's like what was it? World at War. They had a good example where you're an American soldier and you're just trying to survive during the Japanese War, but then when you play as the Russians, you see the descent into madness for Reznov, who's the Russian that helps you, where he just starts of like he just wants revenge, and he's becoming just as vicious as the enemies he's fighting as time goes on, remembering the PTSD of Stalingrad. And it was so well done where, that's the Germans. I'm pretty sure I can't say anything because demonetized, but that was the Germans back in that, 1940s period. No one liked them. Where you start to feel bad for the soldiers of what he's doing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, Reznov, I know they're the enemy, but dude.
Yeah, I mean, they were literal Nazis, but
yeah,
they're still human.
Yeah, like with this game that came out
still
this
literal
year.
Nazis.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad you. It's like, well, I wasn't going to say the word just in case, but because YouTube can be weird. But
I mean, we're talking about actual Nazis.
Yeah, well, it was actual Nazis, World War II. But in this game, they made the Russians like the Nazis, and I'm like, you guys may not agree with the Russian military, but they're not this.
Yeah,
like they blamed American war crimes on the Russians, and that's the part that pissed me off the most. Like, you don't change history and then say the Russians did it.
Was the remake not like just a straight up like upscale port?
No, it was a whole new game, whole new story, and and even people in the media tried discrediting criticism because it's like, well, you don't like the game because of a strong woman soldier, and I just brought up finest hour. I was a Russian lady and I was a sniper. Don't give me that.
Yeah, I mean, what about Battlefield 5? Like that one. That one
was like trying to
American war crimes on the Russians.
Okay, so that one. Okay, Modern Warfare, I was upset because they promised great storylines and they had the Highway of Death, which is an actual thing where people try and escape, and a military bombed them thinking that they were enemies. Right? Americans did that. Then they played on Russians. Battlefield 5 was a controversy because it's like, oh, what a realistic game, except you could be a person of color and wearing a German uniform during World War II because the online mode did that.
I think the online mode is less about realism.
Yeah, but it's like, but they tried stressing realism.
Well, what I'll say about Battlefield 5 is like all the different pieces of the one character that got people upset. All of those pieces did happen. Not necessarily together in that same way, but it's not unrealistic,
Yeah, I think also the part that just made people mad was any type of critique, and EA goes, well, you don't like it because you don't like women. It's like, that's not what we're saying. I think like, this is just a weird direction. Why are you doing this? Realism.
I think there was a lot of people, who did criticize it, and when they were pressed for their arguments, it devolved into anti-women sentiment.
I'm not going to deny that there wasn't. There were, like, I ignore those people like, okay, your opinion is now mute. But I think it was just this whole thing of EA challenging people, and getting the EA reputation still was at its highest. But to me, I was more confused. Like, so what is this game? Like the marketing for it, what is it? It's like cool. Yeah, that's a cool character, but what is this game?
That is a fair criticism.
That was my criticism of, but what is it? Am I this character? Or am I going to do that? Am I French resistance? Am I handicapped making my own weapons, still fighting in this war? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Who am I and why should I care?
If it wasn't like kind of telling you clearly what it is, then that's one thing.
Yeah, that was my huge critique. Is like, but what can you do that the other guys couldn't? And it would just market. I don't mind marketing strong women at all. Go for it. But that can't be your only selling point these days. You know?
I don't necessarily know that was Battlefield 5's only selling point. I never played Battlefield 5, but I know that's
I know. I guarantee it's not the selling point, but the marketing that I managed to see just felt like that, and it was so weird. Like, but what's this gameplay like? It looks like it could be good. It's Battlefield. I trust Battlefield, but what's the gameplay?
Yeah,
you show me all these stories, and I'm like, but multiplayer. I want to see destruction, like Battlefield. I want to see the weapons realistic, like Battlefield.
Yeah, show me the Battlefield parts.
Yeah, I feel like they might have done that intentionally to try to bring in more females to the game. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not trying to defend Battlefield 5 or criticize it. I never played it, and I didn't really see much marketing, but I did see a lot of Twitter controversies, and a lot of the people who were saying things online were not
very. Yeah, when I'm talking about micros, I stay off Twitter because there's idiots on that site.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's also great people on Twitter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my difference would be like, how can you critique Battlefield 5 and show a good game where a girl is the main character? I was like, okay, Gears of War. The entire market of Gears 5 is Caiyth. And the story is great, the gameplay is great, and it shows her just like what the game's like and what you're going to experience. And everyone bought it.
You know,
it's a great game.
So on the topic of like shooter games and World War II games,
mm-hmm.
Do you remember how Medal of Honor used to be the premier World War II shooter?
Yep.
Remember Medal of Honor Frontline? I loved that game.
Yeah. That was Medal of Honor I used to play a lot.
Yeah, I played the one on my GameCube all the time.
I think my dad used to play it.
And then Medal of Honor just kind of disappeared.
Oh, that's one thing I didn't say was it was actually the one that taught me to play shooters was my dad, and the first shooter I ever got to play was Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein 3D?
Yeah.
That's a good one to start with. My uncle showed me how to play shooters, and it was Doom for me.
Oh, yeah. It started with Wolfenstein and then Doom, and I was like, I love this genre. And then I saw my brothers playing Call of Duty on PlayStation, and I just started playing it.
What about Quake? That was probably my first.
I actually never got to play Quake, but I'm aware of it, and I'm very, very aware of its impact on shooters.
Rocket jumps.
Yep. Did you guys ever play The Conduit on the Wii?
No.
I might be like the only person that remembers that game. It was like the shooter for the Wii, and it was about like American history and alien invasions at the same time. And you could have like, it was really cool as a concept, but I never really got very far in it.
I mean, if I could find a Nintendo Wii and find a cheat copy, I could try it, but
you could be like me and have a Wii that may or may not have certain pieces of software installed on it that make it so you don't have to find a legal copy of The Conduit.
I mean, if it's there,
I mean, that's someone who isn't me.
It's someone who isn't me.
Yeah, my buddy Swim.
The only Wii that I have is on the toilet.
I have a Wii and a Wii U.
Oh my god, I do that joke all the time. My girlfriend just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I need a Wii." I was like, "I told you not to play Nintendo while you're doing that." And she just gets so annoyed. I was like, we've been going out for years. Are you gonna stop doing that joke? No. But your reactions are funny.
What about horror movies and stuff?
Horror movies, right? You know what scared the shit out of me when I was a kid?
What's that?
The Grudge.
I can actually make that noise, and so can my son.
What?
And he's
That's amazing.
He made that. He could make that noise. I think when he was about 6 months, he would make that noise, and it was like, what?
Oh God, that must have been freaky. Could you do the noise
Yeah,
for me?
it was me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you got it. Oh, stop!
That
That,
is
just gave me
so
shivers up my spine.
Good. That's awesome. Oh,
Did you guys ever notice horror movies like take a dramatic shift from? I think like Alien was the one that kind of started the shift towards it. It was one of those movies that really just did not show the whole thing at first, and kind of built up the big reveal of the creature.
I mean, the first one, Alien, is a good example, but the first one I noticed that was Jaws.
Yeah,
They
that's a
built
good
up
point.
the shark.
That opening scene with the swim, I saw that as a kid, and it was like almost traumatizing.
Oh, my mom was a teenager, and back then, like, when I watched horror movies, like, there's not enough guts in horror movies. Like, this isn't scaring me. Then she watched Jaws, that opening scene. She walked up the theater like, not in the mood for this.
Yeah, I'm seriously terrified of sharks because like if I ever learn how to surf and I'm out surfing and a shark attacks me, I know that the water is going to go from like blue to red in a matter of like 10 seconds, and I'm going to just cease to exist.
That
Depending
did
on
used
the
to scare
shark.
me. It used to scare me, but then I was living back in the UK and we don't really have sharks, so I was like, okay. So
That's fair.
I can remember as a kid not wanting to go into the sea after watching
Yeah.
Jaws, but
I can understand that.
like now it's like, you know.
So, as someone who works with data, do you guys want to know the freakiest coincidence about shark attacks?
What's that?
They are much higher on in periods of time when ice cream sales are high.
That makes sense because it's usually hot and everyone's swimming.
Yeah, you got it. It's because it's summer.
It's because the
Yeah.
shark wants to steal the ice cream, of course.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You can totally draw the wrong conclusions from data all the time.
Exactly. And what was an example of a good joke was the reason why sharks jump out the water is because they're lonely, and they have that clip of Jaws on the boat, and it says "hug me."
Oh.
It's just like how to make a movie not scary. Just imagine a shark yelling "hug me."
Caiyth, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Oh, horror movies. I haven't watched a lot of horror movies lately. Usually I go through Netflix and it's like watch that. Oh, looks like it could be fun. But the latest one that I watched was, I think it's called Tall Grass by Steven Spielberg. I don't know, Steven Spielberg? No, hang on. I might be
Tall Grass.
totally
you said?
messing this up. Yeah.
What's it about?
You watch. Oh, Stephen King. That's it. Not Stephen.
Oh,
Yeah, that would make sense because he's a horror writer.
In the Tall Grass. There we go.
And what's it about?
Well, at least I got the first names right. Basically, it's really weird. It's like a time loop where it starts off with a couple being called into this tall grass. They for some reason decide to stop by this old abandoned church, and then they hear a little boy calling them into the tall grass. So they enter the tall grass, and then it's a very strange movie. It's
You're not supposed to go
basically
on the
like
tall grass.
a time loop where it's like they constantly enter the grass and then they get murdered and then they are entering the grass again. They have to try to change like the future sort of thing.
Oh
It's
yeah, that reminds me of a movie I saw called Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's very weird.
Yeah. Which
So-
the ending of that movie did not make sense to me.
Yeah.
But no
Yeah.
spoilers. Anyway,
I forgot what I was about to say.
sorry.
Thinking
That's okay.
of favorite. I don't know. I don't know what really is my favorite horror movie. There's probably something. But I just can't.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Have
Drawing
you
a
guys
blank
both
there.
seen Donnie Darko?
Yes.
I think I have. I know it's like that rabbit thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
The rabbit with the metal mask.
Yeah, I have seen it, but it's probably that I've been a movie that I've like caught parts of, and then I don't remember it because yeah, it was a
Would you?
long time ago.
That movie is like so surreal and like weird. Would either of you guys
Yeah.
consider that a horror movie? Because it's
It
not like a traditional horror movie,
can.
but it's not a traditional
Uh,
movie in a lot of
I would.
senses.
Donnie Darko can honestly be a lot of things, but I could see how someone could say that's a horror movie. You know, psychological horror is a huge genre.
Yeah, I think a good example of like a nice psychological horror movie is Paranormal Activity. Or it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, that is a decent movie.
The first one I thought was really good,
The sequel.
and
Well, let's not talk about the sequels.
I never saw any of the sequels, but I did watch it with. Oh, or what about Saw?
Oh, the original Saw, that was fun.
That was the original Saw was a really really good movie.
And you know what's
But
weird?
I'm not
Saw
big on gore
6,
porn, but
Saw 6 out of the. I did see all 7 movies just because sometimes I watch movies and I'm thinking it's got to get better at some point, and I'm like, well, crap, I was wrong. But
I saw the first 4.
Saw 6 randomly out of nowhere was a decent Saw movie again. I'm like, oh, they might be fixing it. And then Saw 7 happened. I'm like, oh, no, never mind.
Are they making an 8th one?
I think they're going to start rebooting it.
It's about time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, there's so many Saw movies. Can we just have, like, more years in between?
Yeah, like stop giving us so much and just start giving us better.
Yeah, that's what I think that also goes for video games as well. It's like, we don't care when the games come out or how many. We just want them to be good.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to think of
Exactly.
my favorite horror movies. I do. It depends because my list that I have funny ones that were either not scary or just kind of like 90s cheesy effects and it kind of made me laugh.
like-
But then
Brain Dead or something.
oh yeah, something like that. And there was Maximum Overdrive. Was this weird movie where the machines came to life and all they wanted to do was kill people?
Oh, that sounds kind of like Terminator.
But it was normal machines. Like one of the funniest deaths was the coach, like a soda machine just started shooting cans like a baseball.
Oh,
Right?
that's awesome.
And the coach goes to look at it and there's a bunch of kids. So he gets nailed right where a guy should never get hit, and then in the head.
Oh no.
And that's
the
how
little
he
snap
dies.
crackle pop.
Yeah, it's just like snap, and then in the head, and the kids run screaming as soda cans are getting launched at him. And I'm like, God, this is horror movies. This isn't scary. The next movie coming on, Nightmare on Elm Street. This is gonna be fine.
That had like one of
Later,
the
I'm like-
bloodiest deaths I've ever seen in a horror movie with Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
I think I
It's-
watched that when I was very, very, very young. Probably
Oh
like
god.
12
Yeah.
maybe?
oh,
Back
I
then it
was
was
like,
scary.
yeah.
With Jason Voorhees being the Friday the 13th killer and me being born on Friday the 13th, I've always thought
Ooh.
about getting a hockey mask just for fun.
I mean,
Just like if I ever
you got
had
the
like
right guy in call when you're talking about hockey.
yeah, that's true. Just be like Moose, can you get me a couple of those, masks?
You don't have to copy. It's like I'm gonna be a goalie and I need some buckets. Oh, got it.
Basketball doesn't have goalies,
No, I was just gonna say like,
buckets.
Wait.
Never mind.
Dude, that's our helmet. That's what we call it.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, we're talking about horror movies.
Right.
One of my ultimate favorites was a Taiwanese horror movie called La La Land.
Huh.
And
wait,
what
with a V?
No, like Lada and
Oh,
then
okay.
Land.
I thought you said Lava
And-
Land.
No, sorry. But La La Land is like this rich development area in Taiwan, and it follows this family that just moved in.
Mm-hmm.
And as they moved in, the house across the street, there was a murder. Right? And within 5 minutes, you start to realize that this place that they just moved into isn't the paradise that it was promised. And she just starts immediately going wrong.
That's
And
not
it's
fun.
so it was like such a change of pace from horror movies. It was it's actually my girlfriend's favorite. And when she came over to America for the first time, we watched it together and I thought, okay, let's just see how this is. It got to a point where I was so scared. She goes, "Oh, if you're scared, you could hug me." And then next thing I hear is her tapping up like, "Stop, stop, air." Like, sorry. But it was well done horror movie with like barely any budget, but the story just picks up and it just hooks you right in, and it's so good.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much.
I like it when stories have good pacing like that.
And the effects are very graphic, and they're even more impressive when you realize they had what?
The Thing, 1982.
Yes.
Great movie.
I thought the remake was actually pretty good.
That's what I've heard. And it got kind of panned.
Good. Well, they got panned because they said, "Oh, it's all practical effects." And when they went in to see the movie, they did add CGI to the practical effects, which just pissed everybody off because it was like a little bit of false advertising. But the
practical effects work in the original was, well, not the original. That's actually a remake of the 1952 one, but the 1982 version
was so good.
Like the practical effects always just had another layer to them, you know.
The movies that freak me out the most are stuff that can happen, stuff that looks like it's possible, and movies with good practical effects, like The Thing, back then used to freak me the hell out.
Yeah,
the original was scary as well.
A lot of the movies from that era really kind of still hold up really well today. Like, look at Terminator. Other than one sequence, that movie still holds up beautifully.
Yeah. The only sequence it doesn't do so hot is the when he was looking in the mirror, because that's really hard to pull off.
Oh, I was thinking you were like the sequence I was thinking of was when the metal skeleton is crawling towards them.
I thought they did that pretty decent.
You can still tell it's like stop motion.
Oh yeah.
Which was the equivalent of CGI back then.
Yeah, it's the best that they could work with. And back in the 80s, that was really good stop motion.
Yeah, like King Kong versus Peter Jackson's King Kong. Like, obviously one of them had access to a lot better tools, but that doesn't mean that it's a better movie. You know?
Yeah, like, I feel like Peter Jackson's King Kong just carried on for way too long. I
never saw it.
Imagine King Kong remade, but it's just as long as a Lord of the Rings movie. And it's like, oh, I thought it was just gonna be like, I forgot Peter Jackson was making this movie. I'm gonna be here a bit.
Well, anyway, I feel like that probably wraps up what we've got for today. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
it's been about an hour and a half. I need to eat. It's Saturday. I feel like being lazy.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at my Audacity like, oh, it has been an hour and a half. Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, we definitely like had a bunch of good topics and conversation. So I feel pretty content with how this podcast has gone. Make sure if you're watching that you leave a comment to let us know what you thought of the episode, or a like, or actually you could do both too if you're like really, really cool.
And subscribe to us and subscribe to Caiyth.
Absolutely.
You will be very welcomed.
Yeah, we'll have a link in the description for her channel.
Oh man, I think I'm just gonna park the car right here.
Yeah, let's like get a group shot of us all standing together.
Are you just gonna kick me out and leave me here?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll drive you back into town. Why are we all carrying C4?
No. We just gotta just like Moose. Could you move? Well, actually, I could just zoom out a little bit.
Where did I get this from?
Wait! No! We ought to stand together and do like a group shot.
Okay.
Where should I go?
Wherever you'd like. There you go.
Okay. Everybody look at the camera.
I'm gonna miss the camera.
Where I'm looking.
There you go.
Bye, guys. And also just. Oh God, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this.
Do you always murder your guests?
I didn't want to punch you. I wanted to shoot everyone with the up and atomizer and make us go flying.
Okay.
No, I really am just stuck on the.
Sorry.
Ow! I got hit by a truck.
Are we playing Frogger?